I'll hand over to you, Susie, for the introductions, and I'll carry on letting attendees in.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. So a huge welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name's Susie George, and I'm Manager of Apprenticeships and Professional Skills at Virgin Atlantic, and I'm absolutely delighted to be your host for this evening's panel. Tonight, we're going to take you on a journey of exploring career pathways in aviation. We're going to bust some myths about this exciting and dynamic industry. And most importantly, we're going to share some practical advice to support you in supporting your young person's journey. As parents ourselves, we completely understand how daunting and overwhelming it can be to navigate careers options for young people. So we've designed this webinar and this panel especially for you. And we know that you're absolutely the key influencers and supporters of your young people, and you're the most important people in helping to navigate their futures. We have an absolutely exceptional panel with us this evening from industry and also from education. And although we're all from different places, we all share the same passion, and that's to excite, inspire, and support your young people into an exciting career. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes introducing you to the panel now. First, I'd like to introduce Melissa Parler. She's from MAG, which is Manchester Airport Group, and she is the Early Talent Manager. We have the wonderful Ginny Ledley from BA, who is not only an apprenticeship mentor, but she also looks after their grad scheme. We have the lovely Keris Glynn from Jet2. Now, there's two parts to Keris. She's a former apprentice, but she also looks after emerging talent and careers at Jet2. We have the wonderful Diane Draper from TUI, and she again has two parts to the conversation tonight. She's the parent of an apprentice, but she's also their talent acquisition specialist. We've got the amazing Julie Wild from Swissport with us too, and she is their talent development specialist. In addition, we've got two special guests that we also have on the panel who are not from aviation, but they're extremely knowledgeable and credible experts in the field we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'd just like to hand over to Siobhan Williams from UCAS, who's their business engagement manager, and the amazing Anna Morrison, who's the founder of Amazing Apprenticeships, just to tell you a little bit about what they do. Siobhan.
Hi, so I'm Siobhan from UCAS. You may recognise UCAS as being a university admission system. We still very much are a university admission system, but over the last few years, we've evolved quite a lot to become more of a career discovery platform. And one of the changes we made was to help bring a greater awareness of apprenticeship opportunities alongside university courses. So now on UCAS, there's lots of amazing tools like careers quizzes, apprenticeship vacancy boards, employer profiles, CV builder, and also lots of amazing resources for parents and carers to sign up to explore their options as well.
Thanks, Siobhan. Anna.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Morrison from Amazing Apprenticeships, and we, I guess similar to UCAS, have a website and lots of information about apprenticeships specifically. So we work with schools and colleges up and down the country, ensuring that young people and teachers and careers advisors and parents and carers are able to explore all of their options. So it's great to be with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That's amazing. It's great to have you. So everybody, the purpose of the next 60 minutes is to bring hopefully some really useful insight to you. And our panel discussion is going to focus on 5 key areas. We're going to start off by looking at careers in aviation and busting some myths for you about that. We're going to look at making choices. There's so many, so some help in doing that. We're going to look at how to get your young person, how to help them get work ready. And part of that will be looking at what a recruitment process or an assessment centre might look like. And finally, we're going to look at authenticity in applications and AI, which is a really hot topic at the moment. AI is everywhere. So we're going to give you some guidance on that. I'm going to be asking the panel questions all the way through tonight. So there's going to be a plethora of questions that I'm going to pose to them. If you have any questions that you haven't had the answer to, please put them in the chat and we'll endeavour to get through them by the end. And if not, we'll make sure the answers are sent out to you. So before we start then, to get the panel warmed up, I'm going to ask them a few questions to get things going. And I'm going to ask the first question to you, Ginny. Like me, you've been in aviation for a long time. I'm 27 years in this year. Can I ask you what inspired you to go into a career in aviation?
Yes, absolutely. So I've also done 26 years in the industry. I started as a frontline operational check-in agent, which I loved. I joined it because I loved customer service, and that was the draw for me. I also have family members that have been through British Airways, so it was very much in the blood. And I think for me, the aviation industry is just so dynamic. There's never a dull moment and no 2 days are the same, regardless of whether you are frontline operational staff or in the back office, in the peripheral roles. There's just never a dull moment. You can plan for something and then there's a curveball. So it's that dynamism that I am attracted to and that keeps me here, and the people that I work around, and also to the people I support help on their career journeys. So that's what sort of keeps me in the aviation industry and BA specifically.
Love that. Thank you so much, Ginny. And I'd like to go over to Julie now. Can you give us some insight into how you got into aviation, Julie?
Yes, I started over 30 years ago as cabin crew for an amazing airline called Britannia, which is now the TUI. Various roles with her, from training and into management. I took a short break and then I rejoined the aviation world with Swissport as a frontline check-in agent. Again, various roles with them, from training, and now I am the talent development specialist for UK and Ireland, looking after everybody else's career path now. So it's a good job, and it is an exciting industry to be in, whichever part you work in.
Fabulous. I could not agree more, Julie. And I'm going to take it over to Anna now, if that's okay. And Anna, I wonder if you could share with us the top bit of intel that you wish parents and carers knew about in how to navigate career info from the very beginning.
It's a great question. Thank you. I think probably one of the biggest pieces of advice is to keep an open mind. So I think sometimes when we're thinking about careers and we're trying to guide our children, it's easy to default to what we knew when we were at school, or information about particular careers or career pathways. And I think, as tonight's webinar is going to demonstrate, there are a huge variety of different careers out there. Apprenticeships have really changed over the last 10-15 years. We've seen a massive transformation of apprenticeships, and we'll get into some of that detail later on. But I think the most important thing is to explore all options, stay open to everything at this stage, and try to put whatever preconceptions you might have about particular roles or pathways to one side. Learn. You are surrounded by experts tonight, so there is really no better place to ask all of those questions that you might have, and just try and gather as much information as you can. And then you're going to be really well equipped kind of going forward as you start to then filter those options and really work out what's going to be best.
Great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. Well, I think you're all sufficiently warmed up now and you've got going. So I'm going to hand over to Melissa to give us some insight into careers in aviation and also do some myth busting for you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Susie, and hello to everybody on the call this evening. So, as I mentioned before, there is quite a lot of myths around aviation careers, what they are, who they're for, and how credible each route is. As I just mentioned, keeping the options open is really important. some of these myths might be familiar to you, might be things you think yourself. And I know myself and colleagues on the call have had various discussions with parents, teachers, even young people themselves to dispel these myths in the past. So I wanted to share some common ones with you this evening and give you the truth behind them. There are a lot of opportunities in the aviation sector, and apprenticeships are a key part of that. So a little bit later on, you'll see a list of all the apprenticeship options there are, but I think it's really clear to see there's lots of opportunity from air traffic control, aircraft maintenance, project management, and then even roles in sort of sustainability and aviation as well. So it's a really exciting industry for every young person to consider. There are hundreds of roles across these areas, and most of these roles do not require a degree. The right attitude, a willingness to learn, and experience from other sectors is really, really important as well. So we look for transferable skills from retail, hospitality, any logistics or digital roles, and that can be really highly desirable for a lot of employers at the moment. I know ourselves included, and a lot of the employers on the call have designed specific pathways that remove barriers and are open to all. So we are trying to attract a more diverse talent pool into that, and we're actively seeking candidates from probably non-traditional backgrounds into these kinds of roles. So you haven't got to go down the A-level and degree route to be successful in these careers. I'd also say that we are still in post-pandemic recovery, so there is still quite a lot of recruitment going on across lots of different areas at different levels, and then new disciplines coming in around green aviation, digital transformation, and those kind of passenger experience roles as well. So it can really be good to keep, as I said before, keeping the options open and doing that research into what is available and what those opportunities could be. If you go onto the government website for apprenticeships, there's over 800 standards on there, from level 2, which is equivalent to GCSE, right the way up to level 7, which is more like a master's degree level, across various industries: business, digital, legal, finance, and obviously aviation. So it can offer a route into a lot of different opportunities, not just those trade roles or those vocational roles we might associate with apprenticeships traditionally, like construction or healthcare. Each industry has trailblazers, so we are working with Skills England and the government to look at new standards all the time. And so again, keeping on top of that and looking at what's coming down the line in terms of new opportunities is a really good place to start in terms of what might be the option for your young person. We do have now alternative pathways for routes that traditionally would have been graduate roles. So again, you can start on a level 3 or 4 apprenticeship, which is sort of A-level, foundation level equivalent. And GCSEs are normally required for that. So maths and English can be beneficial. However, foundation functional skills, is still available, and you can gain those skills on programme. So anyone that found learning in a school environment quite challenging can still get those opportunities. You don't have to come into the industry with those GCSEs. You can sort of learn that on the job. And then for the higher level standards, so those at sort of level 5, 6 and 7, we can look at a range of different previous qualifications and experience to gain access to those programs. That could be A-level, T-level, BTECs, other apprenticeships, and even, as I said, prior experience can help with that too. We are finding now as well that apprenticeships are for everybody. So even high achievers that would normally have gone down that academic route are considering and choosing as a first point of call apprenticeships. And that is because they can get that degree level qualification, but without the student debt that comes with that normal traditional route. We have apprentices that go to universities as well. So universities are offering that apprenticeship route. They go out 1 day a week, but alongside that, they get on-the-job training, they're getting that experience, they're getting paid and no debt. So it is becoming that kind of first choice for a lot of students rather than going down the university route. In terms of some changes that have happened recently, so I've mentioned Skills England already. They're the new government body who are responsible for apprenticeships, and they've been reviewing how the funds are spent. So the levy is a tax that is paid by big business, and that is how apprenticeships currently are funded. So a couple of changes they've made recently. They've introduced foundation apprenticeships. So foundation is very much targeted at the 16 to 21 age market, and it is looking at technical and employability skills to build those knowledge and skills early on to help have long-term careers in industries such as engineering and digital. There are about 7 to 8 of those apprenticeships currently live, and then there's more coming down the line as well. So that's another option for a young person looking to get that first step on the ladder. And the other sort of major change is the funding for level 7. So level 7 is the master's degree level, which is now only going to be available, funded by the government, for learners aged 21 and under, or anybody up to age 25 if they are a care leaver or on an EHCP pathway. So it is going to be funded for those that are at the very entry level of their career, and so you can kind of go right the way through to a master's level if you fall within the age range. The funding that is saved from that is being redirected to support more early careers training and also youth employment initiatives for the 16 to 21 market. So that is kind of where the government and industry is seeing the higher levels of unemployment, and we've kind of made some changes to tackle that as well. So hopefully that gives a bit of an idea of that there is a huge array of opportunities. You can come in via apprenticeship, graduate opportunity, or there are other work experience places as well. And it's not just those roles in sort of cabin crew and pilots, but a huge array of opportunity for your young person to consider. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Melissa. Really interesting. Lots of information there. And I wonder if I can go to Keris now as a former apprentice. Keris, what myth did you encounter the most often when you were apprentice, and how did your experience challenge that myth?
Yeah, definitely. I think the myths that I mentioned definitely come up. I know Melissa mentioned briefly about seeing a bit of a changing trend in terms of having kind of more high achievers go into apprenticeships and people who are traditionally quite kind of textbook in terms of education. That was definitely the route that I came in at. So I think the biggest myth I encountered most at the start of my journey really was a lot of kind of backlash from, unfortunately, from my school at the time and my college. About needing a degree and that I wasn't going to get anywhere without a degree, and that high paying jobs wouldn't kind of come to me if I didn't have that degree, which I definitely think I've kind of proved that wrong during my experience as an apprentice. So I joined Jet 2 when I was 17 as a level 3 business administrator apprentice. I finished that qualification almost 2 years ago now, and I've been full-time working there ever since. And I've not once come into contact with anybody who has kind of trusted me less or thought less of me because I don't have a degree. And if anything, I have got more kind of on-the-job experience, and at my position now, going on 20 in a few weeks, and I've been in industry for 3 years already. I think that itself is kind of debunking that myth, because I've already got the opportunity to do my next apprenticeship, which I'm hoping to start in the next few months. So that'll be a level 4. So you can still work your way up, you can still get those equivalents. And yeah, I think that was the bigger myth for me, was that degrees are really necessary. And I think in any industry, I think this is probably the industry that they're needed the least. Like I think it's such a varied industry to come into. And granted, it's not necessary that degrees are useless in this industry, but it's not necessary at all to come into. And I went through a whole spiel from my sixth form when I decided to leave to pursue an apprenticeship that it wasn't the right decision. I actually got denied a reference at the time from my school, but ultimately I've kind of learned that it was absolutely the right decision to make, and that it hasn't kind of hindered my progression and my career in any way.
I think what a really inspiring story, Keris, of your success, and what you encountered actually when you made your choice, and you were quite confident in your choice. So that's really, really useful to know. I'm going to move over to Julie now. And Julie, as Swissport is potentially one of our companies that people don't know so much about in aviation. So I'd love to ask you what part Swissport play in these roles and in these apprenticeships at the moment.
Actually, many of the airlines at the airports, they are our customers. We are the ground handling service providers. So we look after their passengers. from check-in to boarding, everything in between, baggage, sortation, loading, unloading of aircrafts, and also hospitality in our Aspire lounges. We have 11 Aspire lounges across the UK, and we offer apprenticeships in all those lounges as well, from level 3 and moving through the business right up to level 7. I've currently got 2 QHSE, somebody from finance and somebody in cargo, all doing their level 7s, masters with us. We've also just took on 9 apprentices this year for our maintenance department, and I'm looking after those. They come under my remit as well. And our maintenance department, they fix all the ground service equipment. So all that big, huge equipment you see out there, the boarding steps, the tugs that push the aircraft back, our guys, our maintenance team, fix and maintain that equipment. So the 9 lads that we've took on, they are now doing their level 3 for the next 3 years in heavy maintenance, which is a great qualification for them to have. We've also got a large cargo and trucking department, area of our business. It's a huge area of our business, and they deal with anything from live animals right the way through to exotic fruits and all sorts of other things. So we sort of we're in the background, but on top of that, we've also got all our support functions. And this is where we've got an awful lot of people going through their level 3, their level 4, their level 5 apprenticeships in those support functions. So a huge variety of roles within Swissport.
Wow, that's amazing. What a diverse range of roles and levels you have in areas we might not relate to some of the typical aviation roles. So that's really useful to understand some of that. What I'm hearing from all of you, especially Melissa and Keris, is that there's a lot of choices here. There's a lot of choices to consider, which can feel quite overwhelming. So I'd love to take the discussion over to Diane now. And could you tell us a bit more about choices and flexibility and how to navigate those, Diane?
Sure, absolutely. So as you're hearing, there is so much choice out there for young people, and it's absolutely understandable and okay for them to not have it all figured out and know exactly where they want their future career to go, or that they feel unsure of what it is that they want to do. My own 2 children have taken very different routes after leaving school. So as Susie mentioned earlier, my daughter is just going into her final year of a degree apprenticeship. So she is gaining her degree alongside working. And as Melissa alluded to, that means not a big student debt at the end of it, which is definitely beneficial. Whereas my son decided that he wanted to go to university. He wanted to go to full-time university. So I feel that young people should absolutely make their own choices and follow their ambitions and their passions. But I think the very important role that we can play as parents and guardians of young people is just to help them explore and discover the huge variety of options that are out there. So as an industry, as an aviation industry, you've already heard about the diversity of the opportunities that we offer. And that's for people from all backgrounds, and we offer those at various levels across both sort of skilled trade roles and also more corporate options. Our apprenticeship routes could really offer young people a great opportunity to find out more about working in aviation. Hopefully, if they come to us, they'll fall in love. Our industry is very addictive, so hopefully they will remain with us for the rest of their career. But if not, the skills and the confidence that they'll develop while they're on an apprenticeship would stand them in great stead for whatever they choose for their future career and their choices. So I feel that certainly within our industry, apprenticeships really do allow individuals the opportunity for that exploration and help develop those lifelong skills that could transfer across all roles and industries for their future.
Amazing, thank you. It's so lovely to hear how your two children have had very different choices because you've been able to provide them with that information, and you've supported them with that, which is incredible. I'd like to take Siobhan into the conversation at this point and ask you, Siobhan, what advice would you give parents who might be listening, who are undecided at the moment? They're still undecided, and their young people are too. What advice would you give them?
Well, as we've already said, there's so many resources available, both with amazing apprenticeships and UCAS. Like there's like a wealth of information out there, and I think sometimes it can be hard to understand when you start seeing the levels of apprenticeships, but actually once you look at it kind of explained in front of you, you can kind of get to grips with what the equivalents are for those qualifications. I think the best way to understand apprenticeships though is to actually listen to the apprentices themselves, and there's going to be a whole range of events around you regionally that you can go to where you can meet the providers, the people doing the teaching element of the apprenticeship, where you can go and meet employers and apprentices and actually speak to them and hear their story. And there's so much on social media now as well. So like there's loads of really amazing people on TikTok who are strong advocates, who are apprentices, who are telling their stories and showing you a day in the life. And yeah, so look at YouTube, look at TikTok, look at LinkedIn even. There's so many amazing people out there who are really opening people's eyes to the world of apprenticeships. And I think that will give you a really good understanding of what an apprenticeship can offer and the opportunities it offers.
Thank you, Siobhan. That's really useful advice. And as I'm listening, I'm thinking some of you parents and carers who are listening right now might be a little daunted by the thought of your young person going straight from school into the world of work, not just going into more education, but going into the workplace. And I wonder if I could draw on you, Ginny, to tell us a little bit about how we can prepare our young people and ourselves for that.
Yeah, absolutely, Susie. So for me, I would say my advice to any apprentice coming into an organisation from academia certainly is give yourselves at least 6 months. Allow yourself that time to come in, because you've got to, one, adjust to the corporate working world, to the aviation industry, which can be quite different if you've had a Saturday job in a cafe or hairdressers maybe, or whatever you may have done up until then, or in the retail industry. So the aviation industry really is quite different. So it's give yourself that 6 months to kind of bed in. Everybody treads on eggshells, I find. All of the apprenticeship programs I take on, they tend to tread on eggshells for the first at least 6 months, because everybody's really polite and trying to get used to it all. And then you see people revert to type. And then you see yourself relax into it, you get very confident. And I think that's really good. You understand what the organisation is actually expecting of you, because it is quite different from academia. So, you know, you are actually being paid to come to work. That takes some adjustment. So as the slide rightly says in front of you, employers are looking for that reliability, that dependability in an individual. That's what we're looking for when we look to recruit you. Remember that what you've done up until now, whether it be at school, college, or in any job that you've held, you've got some great experience that you can draw on when you come through the assessment centres and you go through that recruitment process, which we'll talk about shortly. So think about that communication, think about the teamwork that you took part in when you're in your academic world, you know, the projects you worked on with teams, how it worked, what went well, what didn't work well, what you do differently next time. Think about all of those kind of really good examples that you can draw upon when you go through for an interview process. Think about the way you communicate and what's really important to you. So again, just you know, think about all of the things that you've been through, the experiences you've had to date, and really draw upon those, because, and don't underestimate them and don't downplay them, because they're really important examples that you can bring to any recruitment process. On that note, to take you through to the recruitment process, my advice would be, and I'm sure the panel would agree, is whichever organisation you are applying for, do your homework, show that you've actually done some research into the organisation. We want to know that you've learnt about British Airways in our context, but any of the panel will say the same about their own organisations. We want to know you've done your homework, because what that shows to us is that, one, you've got a passion 2, you've got an interest, and 3, you've actually investigated or invested some time in learning about the program you're interested in, not just the organisation. So questions that kind of come up will be, you know, what do you know about, why BA, why an organisation that you're applying for, why the program you've applied for. So to know a little bit about the program you're actually applying for as well as the organisation. So differentiate those 2 bits of research and really do your homework on it. We all work to the same standard. I think it was Melissa that mentioned earlier, there are over 800 standards in the Skills England. If you go to their website, there are 800 standards, and I'm sure that will grow as time goes on. So again, we all work to those standards. What we do is open up the work opportunity so that the skills, knowledge and behaviours that underpin every apprenticeship standard in the industry, that you've got the opportunity to really practice those in a work context, and it's a live work context. You absolutely add value to the organisation you go into, certainly at BA, and I'm sure all the panel would agree. You start adding value from the moment you arrive. So again, it really is looking at those standards, understanding a little bit about what that standard means for you and where it fits in your career journey or in your child's career journey. So exploring those avenues with your young person is probably would add the most value for them. Understanding what the employer expects. So if you are guiding a child through the process, it's really good to explain to them the kind of things that are expected of you and how that young person is going to make adjustments to that, and help them think through what an average day might look like. Again, that helps them to visualize the kind of work that they're going to go into. There are lots of opportunities to look at CVs, interviews and assessments online. For every organisation, we do very different recruitment processes. There are all sorts of times of year. So do look at the organisation, do look at their careers journey, their emerging talent careers journeys, because their timescales will be very different. So for British Airways, we open the recruitment processes up around about sort of October, November time. We close it just before Christmas. We paper sift, we do all the screening over the Christmas period, and then we set out a series of steps into the new year. So by May, you usually know whether you've been successful or not on programme, ready to start in the September, October. So that gives you an understanding of some of the timescales that we work to here at British Airways. But again, every organisation is different, so do check their websites and the emerging talent websites specifically for the programme that you're interested in, as well as the organisation. With regards to assessment centres, depending on the level of apprenticeship or role that you're going into within the aviation industry, there could be various steps, and it could end with an assessment centre. So again, this is about you might have done a series of motivational questions and a series of recorded answers to questions. Then you come through to an assessment centre, potentially, if you are the higher levels in the apprenticeship world or the graduate world. So it's really about we're looking for you to bring your real self. We're looking for you to tell us about your experience. We're looking for you to shine. We're looking for your child, to really tell us about the experience they've got, what they'd like about the programme, why they're attracted to the organisation, what they're going to bring to it, and also what they'd like to develop, how they would like to develop, where they know that their weak points are, their development points, and where their strengths are, and what they're looking to get out of the programme, as well as what they can bring to the programme. So they're the kind of things that we're looking for, but do really bring your real self to those assessment centres. Some of them, because of the high risk environment that we work in the airports, security and medical checks are quite normal. So please don't panic if you are then asked to go through a security and a medical check. It's all perfectly normal. It's nothing to worry about. And please be honest. So if there is anything, be it neurodiversity or anything that you have that you are concerned about, it will not hinder your application. It's best to be upfront and tell the employers, if you've got a neurodiverse challenge, or if you've got, say, something you're concerned about security-wise, just notify those. We will guide you through the process. That's what we're here for. And we'll tell you how we're going to help you through that process as well, and just give you some of that reassurance. So for us, It's about practicing, talking to your young person about the value they can bring, what they really want to learn, where their development points are, why they want to join that organisation, why specifically that programme, where it fits in their career journey. So really help them to think it through as to how it's going to fit and help them on their journey in their careers. Research those roles. And as the last point says there, really tailor your application. We can tell as an employer whether you've just written a generic application. If you could take the name British Airways out and put GSK in, you know, you can see when people have actually really tailored their applications. And although it's tedious, I get it, really do tailor them. So really talk about why BA or why TUI or why Jet2, etc. And really talk about the programme as well. So tell us that you've done your research. It stands you in good stead. Back to you, Susie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny. That was really comprehensive, and I completely relate from a Virgin Atlantic perspective to much of what you said. And I especially loved the part about bringing you, that we want to see you coming to the assessment centre process. So I love that. Thank you. And I have so many questions, but I'm going to start off with a question for Anna. And Anna, I wonder if you could help us with what do you feel? What soft skills do you see as the most valuable for apprentices coming in?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think Ginny touched on some of this already, but perhaps if I can build on it. I think for me as an employer, I'm always looking for communication, really great communication skills, and that can be displayed in different ways. So it might be how you speak and how you write. And I suppose initially, as part of the application process, that's your first way of communicating, isn't it? So you might be writing an application, or you might be taking part in a telephone or a video interview. So those communication skills kind of wrapped up in that. I'm always looking for enthusiasm and interest. And I think, again, Ginny really made this point brilliantly. We want to know that you're interested in coming to work for us as a business. And if you can't articulate it, it doesn't mean that you haven't done your research, but perhaps that might present to us as you're not perhaps that interested in coming to join us as another candidate might be. So it is about doing your research. And by that, I think it goes a little bit deeper than just visiting the website. So, you know, Ginny gave some really good examples of getting into the programme and really thinking about how the programme would work and the progression opportunities. And I think all of that can come together in a really nice package. It's really hard to just pick one thing, Susie, but I think kind of, if I can, communication kind of wraps all of that up. Active listening, nodding, smiling, looking, you know, all of those things can really help to, as an employer or as a recruiter, kind of tell you that a candidate is going to be passionate about the role that they're going to be stepping into.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anna. Really feels really simple, but it's so relevant and it's so accurate as to what we want to see coming in, and such an important skill to build. We often see people coming to our assessment centres in the first year and they're quite shy and they don't talk a lot, they're not outward, and then they come the next year and they're completely different because they've really developed those skills. So really relevant and useful points. Thank you. I'm going to ask another question about moving into the workplace, and I'm going to put this one to Melissa, please. And can you tell us a bit about how you support young people into the workplace in your organisation?
Yeah, so my role as a talent manager kind of has two hats, which I think most of on the call have got similar. So I do a lot of the outreach where I bring young people into the programs we've got, so apprentices and graduates. But a huge part of my role is more pastoral care, is more kind of looking after them once they're on programs. So most of our programs are cohorted, so they'll be with other apprentices or other graduates when they join. And we do a lot of work with them in those initial months to kind of do some team building exercises and to kind of get them a little bit more resilient and a little bit more about, to Anna's point, the communication and how they are interacting with other team members and things. But outside of that, we've got an early talent network. So anybody aged 16 to 25 is in that network, and they have off-site events, they do lunch and learns, and they really kind of benefit from learning from other people that have kind of tread the path before. So former apprentices, former graduates, or even those on programme already but slightly further down the line from them. So having that kind of peer-to-peer support is really important. And then on top of that, we've also got colleague resource groups as well, so sort of colleague communities in different areas, whether that's to be around disability, it might be around race and culture. We've got one that's specifically for parents and carers. So just finding those kind of communities of people to share their, I suppose, challenges with, or to get advice from, is really good. And then finally, we've got a buddying system. So we do buddy them up within their teams with somebody else, again, who's normally been a former apprentice or grad, who's been through that pathway, who hopefully has kind of had those challenges before and can give them that advice as well. So they very much are not left on their own. A huge part of my role and other people's roles in their organisations is to support them while they're on that pathway to becoming work ready, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't kind of leave school and then suddenly can kind of walk into the workplace. So yeah, it's a journey we're on with them, really.
Wonderful. What a huge plethora of support. That sounds incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of those resources that you use. We've got one more topic to cover tonight, and that is a hot topic, which is AI. So I'm going to take you over to Keris now to take us through some of the risks and opportunities that AI tools possess for young people who are applying for positions in our companies. Over to you, Keris.
So AI is something that is becoming it's definitely becoming kind of more frequently used in, I think, all companies, and kind of just across the world, really. It's something that is like it was just being said, a very hot topic, but it can also be quite controversial, especially in the recruitment kind of world. So I know Ginny mentioned before when we were speaking about the recruitment process, how you can really tell when a CV is quite generalised. And I know you mentioned you could take BA out of it and change that with something else, and you can really tell. And that definitely shows as well with AI. There are so many things that AI can be really beneficial for. For example, if you were going into an interview and you know you're going to be asked, for example, at Jet2, one of the questions is always, what do you know about Jet2? If you want to have a really fun fact and something that's quite different, and not just, I know that you're a package holiday company, that would be a really good use of popping into AI some really interesting facts about Jet2, and that would be a really, really beneficial way to use it. What is less beneficial and something that can be seen as a little bit of a risk is using it to kind of completely script your CV or a cover letter. And the reason for that is it completely loses all sense of self. I think something we identified really clearly from the recruitment process part of this session is that yes, we look for experience, and yes, we look for GCSEs and things like that, but we also really want people who want to work in the industry and who want to work for, whether it be Jet2, BA, Virgin, whoever that is. And that sense of self and that sense of enthusiasm just cannot possibly come from something that's AI generated. It is a robot, it's not a person. And whilst the information that AI can provide can be really beneficial in prompting a young person, I mean, it's so up and coming that even myself, I'm 19 and ChatGPT wasn't even around when I joined Jet2. So it's that new that it's something that even I've had to kind of understand and learn what that is. But it can be really beneficial. It can be, can you give me an example of how my CV should be laid out? And that's a really good prompt as to how to start your CV. But what you don't do is input all your information and say, create me a CV, because that's where we want to see what you have to offer. There are also a lot of risks with AI in terms of mistakes can happen. We identify a lot in recruitment process for apprentices, little spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. It often uses American English, so little things like that. And the absolute worst thing to see is when somebody has pointed out one of their skills as being attention to detail, and then something's spelt wrong on the CV because they've used it, or something's, the grammar's not quite correct, or something's been kind of mixed up because it's been put through AI and it hasn't necessarily come out correct. And that's one of those moments where we can see that this person might have had retail experience where they've probably gained skills that are really beneficial for the role, but because they've not explained that themselves, it loses all sense of kind of credibility. And again, it's not to say that it isn't beneficial at all. It absolutely can be, but it's understanding when to use it and when's appropriate. We want to see individual people. Anybody can use AI, but not anybody can get an apprenticeship role in the industry, and that's the difference. It's really important that students and anyone applying for roles understands the difference of using it as a prompt versus using it as a script. And it's also really, really clear to employers and to people in interviews when they've copy and pasted a CV or a cover letter from ChatGPT or Copilot or wherever it might be, and then if that person was to get invited to an interview, it becomes very clear very quick what is and isn't kind of truthful in that application. And it's always such a shame, and it's really important that all that research is done for a reason, and that if we are, as employers and as recruiters, to invite people into interviews, we want them to be able to translate what's been kind of put forward on their CV and on their application. So it's not against the rules to use AI. It's so up and coming and it's so new, and I think people are really curious about it as well. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting it to create you a CV out of interest, just to see what it might come up with and see what it can give you, but making sure you proofread, making sure you still kind of keep that credibility there, and you still show yourself. It would be a massive shame if you got a job because of a robot. You would lose that kind of sense of, yes, I've done that myself. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is you still want to have that sense of, this is me, and that I put forward the best version of myself, and that's what's got me to this position. Not that it's cheating, it's not. It's there for a reason. It's an incredible piece of equipment, and I think all employers are starting to delve into how it can benefit us in the workplace. But recruitment processes, I think, are where it might not necessarily be the be all and end all, and I think it's definitely important to understand the benefits of using it. But yeah, I think it's really important. Do your research. Like Ginny mentioned, all these things become incredibly clear when we invite people to interview, and it's so important that we can see that effort's gone in, and we can see that students and young people have really done their research, and that is only going to help somebody in that process, as opposed to as much as it is up and coming and it is new, there are already systems out there that are designed to detect when ChatGPT or when AI is being used. So it would be a real shame if you get so far in a process and that gets kicked back because of the use of this. So using it in moderation, understanding that it is there to prompt you and it can be there to help you, especially if it's a young person's first attempt at creating a CV or a cover letter, but also kind of maintaining that sense of self and making sure you're not completely reliant on it, because that will kind of only come back to bite you in the future. But yeah, that's what I would advise when it comes to AI.
Advice. Thank you, Kerry. It's definitely a powerful tool, and AI is not cheating, as long as you're kind of using it in the right way. And I wonder, just to bring that to life, I'm going to go back to you, Ginny, because you talked a lot about the assessment centre process and recruitment process. Yes. And I wonder if you could just draw on one example of when perhaps you've seen an example of when AI has really helped an application.
Yeah, definitely. So we, as Keris rightly says, you absolutely can tell. So you might get a textbook answer, and bearing in mind that we are screening people from sort of a level 2, level 3 apprenticeship program. So that's kind of just coming out of school, 16-year-olds, right there we up to sort of 20 plus and beyond if people are coming in at graduate level, or that level 7 as it was originally, but now we're looking at the level 6s. So you are really getting a mixed caliber of audience. But when you get the first textbook answer, you think, oh, that's brilliant, that's the right answer. Then you see five candidates on, and you think, hang on a minute, that sounds exactly the same as the one before. And you suddenly realise there's the AI coming in. So it really is that obvious to us in fact, it's actually driving a lot of our assessment centres to go back to face and coming away from the virtual, because we have actually seen people using the tool, repeating questions that are asked of them in an interview, so that their chat GPT can give them an answer that they then give us back. So it's really obvious in interviews in the moment as much as it is when you're writing a piece of script. I did have one gentleman particularly. I did an interview. I screened his application, and it was so the caliber of the writing was so impressive. I thought it was AI, and actually I asked to interview the individual to make sure that the scripts and the person married up. They correlated. And to my pleasure, they absolutely did correlate. He was a highly intelligent gentleman. The way he wrote was the way he spoke, and there was a complete correlation. I do see the alternative, though, and I'm sure many of the panel do too, where we see a script that is textbook. We take them through, and then the person virtually doesn't marry up with the script. So either somebody else has written it for him, or the AI tool has done the work for you. So again, I can't reiterate enough. Encourage your child, encourage them to give us their authentic self. We're looking to see who you really are, as much as you're looking to see whether you would fit with us as an organization. So give yourself the best chance, and remember, have some self-confidence, because you don't necessarily need an AI tool. Just give us who you really are. That's the authentic bit that we're looking to see as you go through any kind of process. And as Keris rightly says, AI is great. Use it as a prompt, but don't use it as your complete script to rely on all the way through a recruitment process, because it just comes through loud and clear. And it will drive, unfortunately, us away from the virtual world of recruitment back into face-to-face, because that's the only way you can see it. So, Susie, hopefully that answers the question.
100%. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so useful. And I'm sure we'll give a lot of listeners confidence in how to use AI effectively. So final part of our session today, I'd love to bring in Anna and Siobhan, our partners on the webinar this evening, to draw on your expertise, your extensive expertise more broadly, on what you think are the top tips for our listeners today on setting their young people up for success. And I'd like to start with Siobhan, please.
Yeah, so the first thing we have on our list is to explore the variety of roles. So as someone mentioned earlier, there's well over 700 different types of apprenticeships out there that exist, and there's new ones in the pipeline all the time. And it's really important to get an idea, because like the chances are, if you're interested in a particular career, there probably is an apprenticeship associated with it at the moment. So like really explore the type of apprenticeships that are out there. So look at your vacancy boards and just make sure you're looking not just once and think, oh, well, that's all my options. You need to keep checking, because they'll keep on changing. Thing is, with apprenticeships, they can be released at any point in the year. It's up to the employer. So it might be a peak time that you happen to look at, or it might be a lull time for those types of vacancies. So just keep on having a look through the year of the type of vacancies that are coming up to give yourself a really good understanding of what's available. The other thing is not to dismiss vocational or lesser known pathways and assume that university is the only way to get to a career. I definitely have heard of apprenticeships that are level 3 apprenticeships, where once someone's fully qualified, they're on £55,000 a year. So the level of apprenticeship does not equate to the salary once they finish and they're fully qualified. So do your research on the career as a whole and what the progression is once you're fully qualified, and where it could lead to beyond that. And also degree apprenticeships are really competitive, so if somebody's aim is to get a degree apprenticeship, that's absolutely fine, but they may want to consider looking at lower levels of apprenticeships, because there's quite often employers that if you do a really good job and you complete that level 3 or level 4 apprenticeship, they may well consider, just like Keris was talking about, like supporting you beyond that level and taking you up to degree level in the future. So it is possible to get to degree level without going straight for the degree apprenticeship straight away. And the other thing I would say, coming from UCAS, it's always good to keep your options open right through to year 13. So like a lot of people, because if degree apprenticeships are your only focus, because they are competitive, a lot of people have a plan B in mind. And for some people that's university, for some people that's straight into employment. If you are looking at university coming from UCAS, I really need to point out that like you can make a university application as a plan B if you want to, alongside an apprenticeship application. It's not one or the other. And those apprenticeship applications, even if you're applying for a degree apprenticeship, they do not count as one of your 5 choices. So you can apply for 5 choices for university, and you can apply for as many degree apprenticeships as you like, and keep your options open during year 13. Go to those interviews, and it's just as much finding out information for yourself as at those interviews as it is for them to find out about you. So you can still be like exploring your options right through year 13, and just withdraw your university application if you find the amazing apprenticeship that you want to go on. I'll pass over to Anna.
Thank you, Siobhan. Really excellent advice. So I'm going to pick up on the next 3 points. So one on encouraging self-reflection and thinking about interests and strengths and how they can link together. Now, we do lots of work with young people across the country, and one of the most difficult questions we find that they struggle sometimes to answer is, what are you good at? What are your strengths? And talking about themselves in a really positive way without showing off, and finding that balance can be really tricky for young people. And of course, as parents and carers, you will know your child inside out, and you will know about their hobbies and interests, but you will also be able to link that to potential strengths. And we've got resources on our website that will help you to do this. But for example, if your child likes playing football, my daughter likes playing football, communication skills, they're constantly communicating with each other before a game, during the game, after the game, reflecting on what they could have done better or differently. If they're into fashion and makeup, it could be that they are creative, or that one of their strengths is staying on top of current trends and looking at how that can be applied. There's lots of really different ways that you can link interests and strengths together. So practicing some of that can be really beneficial, particularly before interviews and assessment centres, where you might be put on the spot as a candidate and asked to talk about things that you're good at. And we've covered applications a lot, haven't we? So as well as all of that brilliant advice around AI and doing research, I think one of the key roles for parents and carers around apprenticeship applications is proofreading and showing an interest. Now, as parents, when you're reading those applications, you might spot where there could be an opportunity to add something in, maybe a bit of tailoring, as Ginny said. If your child has used AI and that's jumping off of the page to you, perhaps look at how that could be adjusted so it flows and it really does represent your child. And linking in examples. So often employers within application forms may ask for can you give me an example of where you've used a particular skill? And this is where you can link job adverts and job descriptions to the application form and start to demonstrate some of that. So you would be able to be really helpful in that process. The other thing I think parents and carers can be really good at is keeping tabs on all of the applications and deadlines and when things need to be done by. As Siobhan mentioned, employers advertise throughout the year, and all employers will have different cycles and different processes for their recruitment. And that may mean juggling multiple requests from employers to fill in this form, complete that assessment, send this bit of information back to us, and you can really help with that. And then attending open days and webinars. These are really growing in popularity. And what we're finding is all sorts of different employers are opening their doors and saying, come in and meet us, come in and see what it's like. And although you might not get airside, I'm sure our aviation experts here will be like, well, there are certain bits that we can show you of an airport, or that we might be able to give you a flavour of. It's really important that you take those opportunities to, like you are tonight, connect with the experts, speak to apprentices, speak to employers and those that look after the recruitment process, and ask them your questions, because what you will find when you start looking at apprenticeships is there are so many people out there who want to help you and are really happy to give their time to support and guide you. So thank you, Susie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Some incredible advice there. Really interesting, really useful. And finally, to add to advice and resources, I'd love to just signpost you to some really useful information to help you continue to learn about and have the tools you need to progress any interest that you have in what we've shared today. So we've got some links to our own career sites, our company career sites, which have a plethora of information, videos, you know, examples of great apprenticeship journeys, and we've also got some more universal careers sites there as well. Of course, we've got the amazing UCAS and amazing apprenticeships, which it would be great for you to explore. Also, I'd love to say the biggest thank you to you for joining us tonight. It's been really enjoyable, and a huge thank you to all of our incredible panelists from this evening. We really do hope this session has helped ignite your interest in some exciting opportunities and inspired you to share what's available in aviation with others. And most importantly, it's given you a little bit more confidence in supporting your young person's journey ahead. Please do stay connected with the Aviation Industry Skills Board and our fantastic partners, UCAS and Amazing Apprenticeships, for future webinars and resources which will be coming soon. I've been having a look at the chat coming through, and I can already see some interesting themes. We will respond to all of your inquiries and all of your questions, because we've hit time today. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening ahead.